Hey there, you beautiful badass. Welcome to the Carrie Croft Show. I'm your host, Carrie Croft, delivering you stories that get you pumped up and feeling like the unstoppable savage that you are. So grab your coffee, put on your game face, and let's do this thing, baby. Avena Women's Care is a collective of 40-plus providers that have been serving Central Ohio communities with comprehensive women's health care for decades. They meet women where they are in every phase of life. From fertility services to menopause care, annual checkups to 3D mammography, Avena provides robust services for all. So for the highest level of individualized women's health care, there's one name to remember: Avena Women's Care. Go to www.avenawomenscare.com to request an appointment. Be sure to tell them Carrie sent you. Ready to elevate your self-care game? Boss Gal Beauty Bar is a modern med spa offering everything from cosmetic injectables, lasers and microneedling, to medical-grade facials and skincare. Conveniently located in Clintonville, Grandview, Powell, and Easton, making self-care a priority has never been easier. Use code CROFT for $25 off your first visit. Summer's coming in hot, but is your skin summer ready? Fine lines, sun damage, melasma. If these are cramping your vibe, the Moxie laser at Donaldson will leave you glowing. Nervous about lasering your face? I tried Moxie and it was quick and gentle, perfect for first-timers and all skin types. And my results? 10 out of 10. And if you're a first-timer at Donaldson, mention the Carrie Croft Show for $100 off your Moxie treatment. Don't say I've never done anything for you. So these are just little affirmations.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
When did you do this?
When I was going through treatment. Yeah, because I was going through, what happened was I was in treatment and I just was like, everybody looks sick, but I don't feel sick. So maybe the way to heal myself is that I could start like passing the way I feel on to people. So I would write little notes and it'd be like, hey, I see you here every day. I just want you to know that like you're doing really cool. Like, just want to let you know, I think it sucks that we got to go through this, but you just kind of inspire me that you're always here and, all stuff like that. And I would hand them to people. And then I just started like writing them on cards and then leaving them on cars. And then my background, I was just like, why don't I just turn this into something? And then, so I just started making, I just went to Vistaprint, found square cards, just designed them up, and then I was making them, just started making them in my house. And then I found, I think through Alibaba or something like that, somebody that made the boxes. And then I think I initially sold like 800 packs of them. And I turned my living room into basically a warehouse. And just sometimes like I'll just leave a whole deck on somebody's windshield, or I'll just leave one on a door. Or when I'm at the grocery store, I'll have some in my pocket and I'll just throw it in somebody's cart. Just so the idea is it's like kind of surprise and delight. Mm-hmm, so it kind of takes people where they're not expecting something. Or I'll leave them on like, go to Starbucks, put it on the window, like the mirror in the bathroom. So there's like the QR code that'll take people to my site and stuff. So they see the story behind it and like why they're there. And
I'm fascinated that during a time you're diagnosed with was it stage 4?
Oh yeah.
Glioblastoma, is that?
It's bad.
But it's fascinating to me that you got a diagnosis like that and you're going through something like that and you're doing this for other people. I mean, that is just like, to me, incredibly extraordinary and just, I mean, you're here today, right? So you're beating odds.
Oh yeah.
Left
I'm
and
way
right.
past odds, yes.
So I don't know, does one thing have to do with the other? But I just find that to be really incredible. So Jason Tharp, welcome to the Carrie Croft Show.
Thank you.
It is my true honor to be sitting with you.
It's my pleasure.
So let's pick one of these. I just want to do a random card.
All
Did
right.
you write all these yourself?
I did.
Sometimes the smallest step in the right direction ends up being the biggest. You're doing great. Do one more.
All right.
I need these today. Can you tell? Okay, here we go. You bring so much joy into the world just by being you. Never forget how amazing you are. Kate, I think you need one of these too, because you had a little rough night. Come over here and let's read one for Kate. Kate had some anxiety last night. This is part of being a part of the show. Nothing's private. Kate had anxiety last night, everybody. Hey, all right. Pick it and then read it.
You're doing a fantastic job. Life's tough, but you're tougher.
Aw, right, Kate?
You're doing a good job, sweetie.
You are. And if I haven't told you lately, you're doing such a great job. Am I the reason for your anxiety last night? Let's get it out. Let's have it out. So I have so many questions for you.
Yes. Let's go.
But let's start with like, what are the most awkward, weird things people say to you since you've been diagnosed with cancer? Like, do people just say, I mean, they don't know what to say. They feel like they have two left feet.
The first thing is always, I'm sorry.
Do you hate that?
Yeah, kind of a little bit, because my reaction always is like, well, don't be, because you didn't give it to me. And if you did, we should talk. Okay. But I think that I get it 100%. You don't really know what to say when somebody says, yeah, hey, so I was supposed to be dead in 7 months, and I'm still here. And, or either people don't, because I wear the device in my head, people don't know what it is. So I'll get the random thing, because they think I'm wearing a Camelback, or they think I'm rucking all the time or whatever. And so they'll say like, what is that? Is it a cooling device? And I'm always like, boy, I wish it was. And I'll explain it. And they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And it's like, they're embarrassed to ask the question. And it's like, no, it's actually really cool technology. And let me tell you about it. Like, and I think that, so it's not annoying. It's just more so like, I feel like we're always so afraid to ask questions nowadays because we're worried that we're going to offend somebody. But sometimes asking questions actually builds the bridge to a new friendship or a new whatever, because you never know. I mean, because there always is a bridge of something, right?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times people assume too much, that you can't ask questions, or you need to apologize for asking questions, or you need to apologize for being curious. But the truth is we all actually get to where we want to go by finding the goalpost out there, the people out there that are doing stuff that we would like to do. And it's like, for me, that's why I make those things. That's why I'm willing to talk to people. It's because that's what I look at. Like, I'm beyond beating odds, like with as far as what I got diagnosed with. And like, I don't take a single moment of that for granted. And it's like, I'm still here because there's some work to do, and I need to connect, and I need to do this, because why else would I survive this?
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like, it's easy to lean into that side of stuff. So I've learned really, really importantly how to kind of thank that setback, for what it revealed in me. Like, for so long, I really had I had so many masks on. Like, I've been with my wife since I was 18. So we've been together longer than not. And like, guaranteed, anybody that knew me prior to diagnosis never, ever knew me, including her and my kids. But now people actually get to meet me. And it's like, this is all the stuff that I've been holding inside that I was too afraid to tell everybody about, because I was judged by it when I was a kid. I was ridiculed for it. I was bullied a lot because I always felt connected to something different. Mm-hmm. And so it was like easier to suppress that. Whereas like when all the excuses are stripped away, you can't anymore. Like, you kind of unplug from all this stuff. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Yeah. And so I just run with it now. And so, yeah.
Because I don't like when people say I'm sorry either.
Yes.
So, and I've got a completely different struggle that I've had with infertility. Mm-hmm. And so that became sort of this thing where everybody would be like, oh, I'm sorry. And it started to piss me off. Mm-hmm. But then I want to be a part of the solution, right? So what would be something that someone could say to you alternatively to I'm sorry that would maybe make you feel better? Like, is there something someone has said where you're like, I kind of love?
Yeah. I mean, I think the easiest thing would be like, is there anything that you can tell me that I could use for my life? That would like help me, because I mean, everybody struggles. Yeah. Kate had anxiety last night, right? Like
it's always coming back to Kate.
Yeah. We all have stuff. And I think that's the part. It's like, one of the things that I love to tell people is that like, my goal in life is to wake you up before you have to have a diagnosis like I had.
Right.
So it's easier, I think, So I'll use this as an example. So whenever I go to like some of these medical conferences and stuff like that, I get to meet all these different, doctors or, pharmaceutical companies that are working on cures for cancer. So when I meet people, I'll say stuff like, hey, I have brain cancer. I want to live. You got anything for me? Right? So you just ask the direct question, like, how could you help me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you have a solution that would work in my life? And I think that that's much better than I'm sorry. Like, because I feel that all of us humans are bubbles, right? We're kind of floating around and we all bump into each other. Like, this moment we're having right now is never going to repeat. So we're like two bubbles that are going to bounce. And sometimes when bubbles bounce together, they form bigger bubbles, or sometimes they pop, right? That's what we get to do every single day as people. We get to bump into other bubbles and see, is there something in this person's story that I could actually use to help me get further where I'm at? Because the beauty is that we're all out there floating around trying to figure life out. And the more we can embrace that and just be vulnerable with it and just say stuff like, hey, like, boy, cancer sucks. I think that's probably would be the cool part. If people just says that would suck.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the acknowledge of like, yeah, it does suck. Like, it's like my life was completely normal. And then all of a sudden somebody told me I was going to be dead in 7 months. Like, it was like, there was nothing wrong with me as far as I knew. And then the next thing I know, I'm waking up with my shoes off. I peed my pants and I'm in the emergency room and they're telling me that I'm going for MRI and they're going to cut my head open and take out a tumor. Like,
yeah, so we're gonna get to that dead in 7 months
Yeah.
part. But I have some questions for that, doctor.
Yeah.
No, just bedside manner. But I get it. I get the diagnosis from
Yeah.
a high level is like a fatal thing, right? They're like you don't want to hear that. But I also get that like no one's God, and so like
Right.
we'll get to that.
Sure.
So, but you said something earlier about how your wife never really knew you, your kids never really knew you. You were masking, and so just going back and looking at your story, you had some self-loathing from a very young age.
Oh, 100%.
And where did that stem from? What specific thing? Or was there one specific thing?
Oh, there definitely was a lot of specific things. So, like, I think for me, it kind of started where when I was little, I always felt like I was connected to something different. And then I was kind of pulled into a Christian school. And I was made to seem like there was something wrong with me because I felt connected to something different than what everybody else around me was telling me was the way it was.
Okay, when you say you felt connected to something different,
Yeah.
but how did you articulate that as a child?
As a kid, it was weird because I just knew people I should be around and who I shouldn't be around. I had a really high intuition of emotions. Like I could really tune into, and I'm still that way. Like, I cry all the freaking time. Like it's just I was able to kind of channel into those things and just trust my gut when I was little. And then it just has gotten sharper as I've gotten older. But when you're a kid, people think you're crazy because they just call you a weird kid, because that's what they do is they label things they don't understand, And so just knowing when I was little that I just felt different, and I knew what I wanted to do and what I was going to be really, really early in life. And when I would share that with people would tell me all the reasons why it would never happen. And so, but I just knew. It was like, when I was like 6, my parents bought a VCR, young people are going to have to Google that. And I loved Saturday morning cartoons, but I loved the old cartoons, like the Woody Woodpecker and Tom and Jerry and all stuff like that. And so what I would do is set the timer to record them, because those came on super early, because by the time we were kids, like they were selling us, A-Team and, Knight Rider and they were licensing us stuff, like selling us licensed toys. So when they said it early, I would just set the timer to record, and I'd go downstairs and I would start the cartoon. When my favorite character would come on, I would pause this TV and I would just tape, because you could do that back then because the TV screens were glass. I just taped paper across the screen and I would trace the characters. And I didn't know it then, I know it now. I was teaching myself how to draw.
Yeah.
And one of my parents, I don't know who it was, I'm sure to keep me quiet because I talked all the time, just made in passing this comment of like, people get paid to do that. And I'm like, what? And I make cartoons. I was like, holy cow, that's a job,
That's
and
what I want to do.
that's what I want to do. I want to be a storyteller. Because when I was a kid, Sid Hoff and Shel Silverstein were like my best friends, and they didn't even know it, because that was the first time I saw myself reflected in a story. Because it was like, oh my God, like there's this book called by Sid Hoff who does Danny the Dinosaur and Sammy the Seal, and it's called Stanley. It's about a caveman that is living in a caveman world, but he's obsessed with painting and being creative, and he doesn't want to do all the stuff cavemen do. And that was me. And I was like, oh my God, this guy gets me. So it was like, there's people out there that actually understand me. And so it was like, the more I saw that, the more I leaned into that. And then as you grow up, when you grow up and things like that, it was like, I vividly remember telling my 8th grade guidance counselor when he said, what are you going to do with your life? And I said, I'm going to be a storyteller. He's like, you're never going to amount to anything because all you do is draw all over everything. And it was just like, yeah, I know. And that's what I did. I mean, I did not care where periods and commas and all that bullshit went. All I wanted to do was tell stories. I spent all my time in elementary school in the hallway writing over and over again that I will not talk in class, because I would get an idea in my head and I'd just stand up and start telling you. Like, I didn't care. Like, it was just like, it's there. It's got to come out.
Yeah.
And so I'm not good with authority. I'm not good with people telling me that I can't do stuff, and all those things. So it just became like the natural path for me. And I don't know if that's where all this stuff has led to. Like, it's hard to explain, but yeah, it was just.
Do you remember Sister for Sale by Shel Silverstein?
Oh yeah.
Sister for sale, sister for sale, one whining, crying, whatever, sister. That one. Oh, I mean, I thought he was like, I still have like his books, but I totally get it. It was like you could just like see yourself in these little quips and poems, and like
so
it's
good.
so fantastic. So okay, so then you at one time weighed 400 pounds.
I did.
Which is wild to me.
Yes.
That the photo of you on your website where you have the happiness as a state of mind and you're like looking anything but happy. I mean, that tells a story right there. So it was because you didn't feel accepted, you started to eat your feelings. Next thing you know, you're 400 pounds.
So I met my wife, I was 175 pounds. 2 years later, when she married me, which I'm still shocked by, I was 400 pounds. Yeah. And what had happened was she had we'd done laundry. We were like, we're poor college kids. So it was like she did laundry, dried my pants, and I couldn't leave the house because I couldn't button them because the cotton, shrinks a little. And I think we had to go buy to Walmart and buy some sweatpants so I could leave or something. And it was just was the rock bottom moment. It was like the embarrassing, what have I done to myself?
So wait, you did that within 2 years?
Oh yeah.
So what was there like a specific thing? Like, cause that's a pretty
Taco Bell.
No, not well. We'll get to the food thing, but that's a very specific space and time to all of a sudden go from 175 to 400 pounds. Was there a specific event where you were like, I'm just going to start eating all the time? Like, did you go into a depression?
I just hated myself. I just really didn't care about anything about me. It was just this weird. It's hard to explain where I just didn't find any value in me. It was I kind of lost all hope in what I was trying to do, because it was just it felt like, as far as life was going, it felt like no matter how hard I worked or hard I tried, it just was spinning in mud. And there was only so much that I could take. And when I've had a lifetime of people telling me all the reasons why I would never succeed at something, it just felt easier to just eat my feelings versus deal with actually doing. Plus, I mean, too, guys my age, 49, we don't talk about that stuff. We were taught by our parents to suppress because it's easier. It's easier to not deal with your feelings than it is, and love my dad to death, but he definitely was not good at teaching me how to express myself or any of those types of things. It was more you kind of man up, so to speak, and it's and when you play sports, especially at that age, it was you never complained. It was always about the toughest guy. It was it was so toxic. If you ever said anything, it was just you didn't have feelings. You just kind of yes, sir, no, sir, whatever. And just, it was always about how tough can you be? Yeah.
So you started making a run for the border.
Oh yeah. Taco Bell was dangerous.
Taco Bell's the best. 7-layer burritos, man. Those things will just.
Oh.
So was it like really?
Yeah.
So you like, what's your wife's name?
Becky.
Becky, I would love, I'm fascinated at the amount of time, the fact that you are 175 pounds. Next thing you know, she's looking at you and you're that is true love.
Yes.
Because I would have been like, look, buddy,
right.
You need to either get the jump rope out and some weights. Like, what the fuck? That's not like 10 pounds.
Yes.
So, okay. So like, let's just walk, just for my own sick curiosity.
Yeah.
Like, what were you, like, think about like your daily routine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what were you doing to gain that amount of weight?
Yeah, I mean, I actually remember what I used.
I want details.
Yes, you want to know what I would order for lunch?
I want to know from the best of your ability.
Yeah.
What were you doing? You had to try.
Oh yeah, I would do. So I was at the time I was working rent to own kind of stuff, and I was kind of like the repo guy.
Yeah.
So I drove the truck and would go take people's stuff if they didn't pay their rent, and so it was always just sitting on my butt. You know, it wasn't doing like activity. You know, and I would go to Taco Bell and order like 3 bean burritos, 3 soft tacos, nachos Bel Grande, Mexican pizza, the little churro things, and then, you know, the giant soda, because, you know, sugar wasn't bad then. And and then tostados, and then also the little nachos too.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because you remember
just to pick up the scraps.
Just to pick,
you got to. Pick
and
up
you
the
remember like how cheap Taco Bell was back then. My total would be like $30, you know, back then. Like, so to people nowadays that don't remember, Taco Bell used to be like 49 cents a taco.
Yeah.
It was like nothing. And so, it was daily. And you know, if it wasn't Taco Bell, it would be like another fast food place. And so very much I can identify with when you see some of those like obsessed TLC shows and stuff like that of people just kind of going through the drive-through and just getting bags and just eating like crazy. Yeah, I can relate to that for sure.
What else was there during the day? That was like one sitting.
That was one setting, yeah.
And then what else would you do? Like you're like, oh, I'm hungry for like.
Oh, just whatever was around. You just keep eating stuff. Candy bars, Reese cups, like, you know, any of that stuff.
So did Becky say anything to you? Like, let's say like halfway through, like let's say you're getting up to like 250, 300.
No.
She's like, hey, she never said anything.
No, I mean, there was never like a, what are you doing to yourself kind of thing. I think now definitely would be like, you know, it's like, because like now it's funny is that because I'm on the steroid I'm on right now, and we were talking about it right before it, like water retention. And she like will like kind of I'll be like, man, I'm feeling pretty fluffy right now, you know.
And you're fit.
Yeah, and she's like, well, your face at least isn't wrinkled right now. Like there's no wrinkles in your face, and it's like that is more like she's agreeing with me. I think more like whereas back then I was so like dense to it that, and it obviously happened very quick. Where when I was in high school, I was playing baseball and football, and I was always active, and I went from always active to not. And I think there's this weird thing that happens where you kind of forget to look in a mirror and realize that like, whoa, dude, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, and I think that was where it kind of started. And it was when the pants dried for whatever reason, and you can't leave, and you hit that rock bottom. That's when it was like, oh my God, what did I do? So then I jumped to the extreme of it. I joined World Gym. That was right over in Worthington. And at the time, those were like where all of the Arnold guys were working out. And I'm like, I'm going to jump into that fire, because there will be accountability, because I'm intimidated as hell to go in here, because these dudes are all like just jacked, massive guys. And so initially all I did was I just started going to the gym. I just show up. I'd kind of walk in the door and walk right back out. It's like, let's start the habit of just going.
Yeah.
And then it was like, you know, you have to unlearn and rebuild, right? And that's what I had to do. And, you know, so the same effort that I took to go to Taco Bell, I would take to go to the gym. And then eventually I got brave enough to get on the elliptical. And, you know, back then I took a Fedra, which that stuff no longer, but it works.
Yeah.
And I would take that crap. And then it was like, you get results like quickly. It was like The Biggest Loser. I would be dropping so much weight. The reverse of what I was gaining, I was dropping it equally fast. But what I did, a little trick mentally, what I did was I never like changed what I wore. I wore the exact same sweatshirt and sweatpants that I started at the gym with. So what ended up happening by the end, I mean, this stuff was just hanging on me. And it was just like, I refused to buy new clothes because I felt like that's how I knew every time I'd put them on that I was making progress.
Yeah.
You know, because I wasn't weighing myself. I wasn't doing all that stuff like that.
That's
And
interesting.
yeah. Because I wasn't interested in that part of it for whatever reason. It wasn't like the goal wasn't to drop a ton of weight. It wasn't until I think I hit 100 pounds on my own and I plateaued. And that's when I finally weighed myself and kind of looked at, you know, what was going on. And then I had a couple of those dudes that were in Arnold, like, come over to me and just say, hey, we've seen you in here all the time doing all this work. Congratulations. And for whatever reason, like, you know, when I was little, for sure, I mean, because being a chubby kid and all that stuff like that, like pro wrestlers and bodybuilders and all those guys, that was like, they were superheroes. So when you hear these guys come over and say that stuff to me, it felt like, okay, cool, I'm doing something right. And then one of the guys was like, I told him I had plateaued, and he offered to do a diet for me. And so it was like a 6-week his cutting diet that he does. And I followed that thing religiously. And then I ended up, like, for the first time ever in my life, getting like abs. And that was like, oh my God, like there's stuff there. It's like underneath all that fluff that was there. And, you know, and now it's just like, you know, now the diet's easy because it's survival. So it's not, it's so staying fit now is a piece of cake because it's like the alternative is way, way worse.
Are you super like just pristine with what you put in your body?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Big time. Basically I do carnivore every day. Everything's pasture raised. Everything's grass fed. Everything's, you know, tons of supplements, you know, really, you know, mindfulness, like spend a lot of time making sure that anything going into my body and my brain is all serving the purpose of survival.
You say though, do you feel like when you were diagnosed that's the first time you really were able to be like, wait a minute, and shed kind of this, I mean, hatred for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
So in a weird way, this horrible diagnosis sort of helps you to break free and break through. It's so wild.
Well, I think what it is like, what happens when everything is stripped away is the real you gets revealed to yourself, and you get to choose. I mean, I say when I do keynotes all the time, like, I wish I would have paid attention to the awakening when I lost all the weight, but I ignored it completely, 100%. Never paid attention to like what was actually involved in there, because the best way I can describe it is when I was a kid, probably around like 3rd, 4th grade, I feel like that's when I created 2 different versions of myself in addition to the main character, right? Where it's like, if you think about, like, if you're walking down the road and you have a kid on each hand, and in my right hand was the kid that was the noisy kid. He was the one that was like screaming all the stuff that I was insecure about, right? You're not good enough, like you're whatever. And then in the left hand was love. It was like all the stuff that I wish that I would have heard, or I wish that I would tell myself. And so what I felt like happened during diagnosis was, throughout my life, I had been paying so much attention to the kid in the right hand that I let go of the left hand. And when I was diagnosed, I felt completely alone, kind of in the woods with this kid that I didn't want to be around anymore. And I decided to explore and figure out, where in the hell did the other kid go? And then all of a sudden it was like I found these breadcrumbs, and they all led back to this little dude, little broken version of me that was sitting there like going like, hey man, where you been? I've been looking for you. Like, you ready to live your life now? And that's where the rebuild started. That was where it all began, where I started really diving into writing to that kid, apologizing to that kid, explaining my situation, where I felt like, from that perspective of what it felt like to be the kid that was drowning in that whole situation, and then writing to it, basically explaining myself like to it. But what was beautiful about that whole process was, during that whole time, I learned how to rediscover myself. And then I started sharing the story with other people, and then hearing that other people felt the same way, you realize that, like, holy shit, all the stuff that I was afraid of is the thing that has set me free. And then I try to explain to people now, it's like, you know, there's a good chance that everything that you want in life is hidden behind all the stuff you're afraid to face. But if you just face it, and I think more importantly, like, ask a better question, That's the big one, is like, instead of why is this happening to me? Like, what is this version of me that's trying to come out of this? You'd be surprised on like what you'll see is everything you've been looking for. Like, you're searching for something that everybody thinks it's out there. Like, everybody wants to go on a vision quest and go out and find, go ride the snake, and they want to go drink the teas, and they want to go but it's not out there. Like, you're going to find, even when you go do all that stuff, you didn't go anywhere. Like, it's all inside, and it basically, what I did was I did a trip with myself where I really sat down and had tough questions, with myself, stuff I didn't want to talk about, stuff I didn't want, stuff that I was like, nobody gives a shit about that. Like, it was at one point in time, to an extent, when I would go to a school and do school visits, and there's lots of kids there, where I would have some moments with kids that I would be talking to kids in the classroom. And I remember a couple of times where I was at a school, one in particular where this teacher asked me to come talk to this young girl. And I went into her room and was talking with her, and she was really into drawing. And what she was explaining, the teacher was explaining what she does. That's what I did when I was a kid. So I sat down with her and I was like, do you draw to forget? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh. I said, isn't it cool that you can make up any world that you want? And I said, do you ever feel like you actually go into your page, like when you draw? And she just kind of shook her head, yes. And then there was like recess, and she like hugged me, and the teachers were crying. And I'm like, what's the deal? She goes, she hasn't talked to anybody for 6 months because her mom just left one night, and like, she's just stuck with her dad. And like, the dad's desperate because he can't figure out how to connect with her, all this stuff like that. And she's like, not only did you get her to talk to you, she actually communicated with you. And that's the first time she's ever done that. Well, that's wonderful, right? That's that weird gift that I feel like I've always had. But then that version of me would get in the car and say, nobody gives a shit. Like, they just tell you that stuff to make you feel good about yourself. It was never allowing myself to have any wins. So it was just like, it was much easier to do that than it was to accept the fact that like, wow, I'm actually good at this stuff.
You call that your foe.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And that's the stuff that I feel like that's what the brain tumor had to do to eradicate from my life. And that's where I say, thank your setback. Like, it's like without that, I wouldn't be who I am today. And that's what I'm so grateful for. And that's the mission now, is to explain that to everybody else and help other people wake up to life. Like, it's, I don't necessarily want to be a guru, and like, I need to learn how to teach everybody. Like, this is the stuff I've learned. It's not as easy because, truth be told, it's not easy to do. It's easy for me to explain, but the real work, it's not easy to do. You got to really want to change. And I think that was the part, was I don't think I ever wanted to change until it was forced on me. Yeah. Same as the weight stuff, right? Like, it's amazing what you'll do when nothing is around and you are trying to figure out how to survive life, and you have nothing to blame anymore. Like, it's like, the doctor told me that there's no genetic things that say whether or not you're going to get a glioblastoma. And I remember thinking, I hate that comment, because the first thing you see is everybody always puts that F cancer on everything, right? And I would see that when I was first diagnosed, and I just was like, no, I will never, ever, ever wear a shirt that says that. And of course, when I got it, everybody gave me those shirts, and like, hate to spoil everybody's thing, I donated all of them because it was just like, when the doctor told me that, I thought, oh. And I remember going into my oncologist, the second one. The first one got fired immediately, but the second one, my new one, he's amazing. And I told him, I said, I really hate that idea of fighting cancer. And he was just like, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, you told me that there's no genetic markers, which means I made it. And if I made it, I also can be the person that makes sure it doesn't come back. And I said, so when you're saying that I ought to wake up every day and fight cancer, that means I need to wake up every day and fight myself.
I've been doing that my whole life.
I said, that's all I've done. I said, instead, I'm choosing to live now. I've never done that. And I'm like, now we'll see what happens. And that shifted everything. It was like once I really bought into that part, because the addictive part, I'm sure I have, because once I decide I'm all in on something, I'm all in on something. There's no kind of like, let's see, it's like, no, once the vision kind of, clicks and more importantly, once the feeling of it clicks, then it's like, I'm all in. Like I can't unsee it. And I just, run that way and just keep going. So yeah, I think that's the core of it.
Do you believe that your self-loathing and the way that you sort of manifested these internal thoughts, that's what caused this? Stress and inflammation take a toll on your body and your wellness. Relax, restore, and rejuvenate at Panacea Luxury Spa Boutique. Book any service of $100 or more and enjoy 2 hours in our luxury amenities. Unwind in our Himalayan salt saunas. Recharge in our wet retreat space with a eucalyptus steam room, hot hydrotherapy pool, and cold plunge. Then drift into deep relaxation with our hanging loungers. What's your panacea? We'll help you find it.
Listen, nobody loves laundry day. But thanks to the Fluff, laundry is officially off your to-do list. Just schedule your pickup on the Fluff app, toss your dirty clothes in any bag you've got, and leave it on your front porch. The Fluff handles the rest, returning your laundry fresh, folded, and in our reusable vinyl bag in just 24 to 48 hours. Flat rate pricing means you stuff the bag full, and yes, pickup and delivery are totally free in Central Ohio. Use promo code CARRY for 20% off your first order. P.S. Ask about our monthly subscription to keep life simple and your laundry done.
Who says you need a special occasion to feel like a celeb? I mean, stress is real. Life is busy. And your scalp? Yeah, it deserves some love too. That's where Headspace by Mia Santiago comes in. Treat yourself or someone who deserves it to a luxurious scalp treatment and a killer blowout or cut, because nothing says main character energy, honey, like a fresh style from celebrity stylist Mia and her team. And because we love a good deal, mention the Carrie Croft Show and get 20% off your service or any gift card for somebody in your life that you love. Headspace by Mia Santiago, because great hair days shouldn't be rare.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Oddly enough, I used to be another weird story about that I would be working in my office. I have a studio much like this where I would be like working and stuff. And funny thing is, I'd never had headaches before. And here's another funny thing. Even after, I've literally never had a headache in the 4 years since all of this. And you would think I would, but I've never had one yet, which I hope to never get. And but I was working and I would text Becky and I would say like, hey, have you ever had because she gets headaches. And I'm like, you ever had a headache where it felt like somebody stuck a screwdriver in your head and pulled it out real quick? And she's like, well, not really, but maybe like a quick little tension headache or something like that. And I was like, oh. Well, what I didn't tell her or anybody else was I would obsess for like hours while I was working of like, holy shit, there's a tumor growing there. And that's exactly where the tumor was in that spot. And I would just obsess over it. Like, and it was just like, and if I'm somebody that I bring about, right? And that's definitely where I buy into, like, I think there is a plausible answer that like, I could have. Becky and I have a theory of there's two things that could have happened. Is like, one, when I started healing myself, I started shrinking the tumor, and then the seizure and all that stuff like that was what needed to happen in order for it to get out of me, or like I created it the whole time. Like it's the only other thing I could think of because I believe that stuff is true for sure. Yeah.
Let's talk about this doctor.
Yeah.
So he was fired, or why do I always think it's a he?
It was a she.
She.
Yes.
See, I was wrong.
Yeah.
So she was fired.
By me.
By you.
By
okay,
me. No,
by you.
Not by the,
okay,
no,
I was
no.
going to say because I feel like there's a balance of like being honest about a prognosis.
Yes.
But also delivering it in a way. I mean, I can't imagine having to deliver that message. So I'm going to say that and give that person some grace.
Yeah.
But man, is there some schooling? Is there something we can add to the bedside manner? Tell me about that.
Well, so it was weird because, I don't know if it's everybody's case, but like at least with mine, like I had the surgery, and then it was like 6 weeks later before I still didn't know what it was. And so you're kind of going back between like, well, technically it's cut out, so I don't have whatever it was. And you're trying not to think that it was cancer. And before I went to the oncologist, it was like, and then on top of it, I should add too that the insurance company denied all my coverage. So like it was not only going through surgery, 5 minutes before I went into surgery, the doctor came in and said, hey, just want to let you know your insurance company is denying it, but we're doing it anyway because we're confident we can get it all and we'll deal with it later. I'm like, okay, great. And I'm high as a kite on all this stuff anyway, so I didn't even know what was happening. So I'm like, awesome, like let's do it. And so 6 weeks later, I finally get into this oncologist, and luckily I had my first appointment with my radiation oncologist first, and he was awesome. And so you kind of think, okay, this is going to be great. Then I go down to the neuro-oncologist, and it was like they got the test results in front of me. Rather than doing the million things they could have done, hey, I need to step out for a second, I need to whatever, they started reading it in front of me. And she goes, boy, this is bad. And I go, okay. Now, mind you, I don't even know what the hell this is. She goes, well, it's stage 4 or grade 4, sorry. And glioblastomas, they go by grades. It was grade 4. And I said, oh, okay. And I typically lean towards levity to kind of make it better. I was like, well, Rocky 4 is the best Rocky movie. And she's like, Sylvester Stallone's a horrible actor. And I'm like, Jesus, okay. And then it was like, then there was a couple other things that was said. And I said, but I said, here's the thing though. I'm like, you're using stats from the beginning of time. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like, because to me, I'm me. Like, I'm not any of those things that are on all of those things that you're putting together. And then she just jumps straight to like, I don't think you understand. You're going to be dead in 7 months. And then looks at Becky and says, and you're going to have to figure out what your limit is, because eventually he'll end up like kind of pooping and peeing on himself and all that stuff like that. And you're going to have to understand how much you want to put up with.
Did Becky say, I watched this man gain. I'm still back on, hey, forget about the cancer. I'm still back on the weight gain. She's like, honey, I can do anything.
Yeah.
The fuck?
Yeah, so then she finally realizes that she shook me a little bit, right? And she kind of put her hand on my knee and said, like, do you need me to step out? And I said, are you going to come back a different fucking person? And she goes, well, I'm trying to be thorough. I said, no. I said, you are an asshole. I said, so you just need to dump it. I said, here's the beauty part of it. I said, I have really strong shoulders. So you clearly have had a crappy day. I said, so you can dump all your problems on me. I said, because I will never see you again. And like, so if you feel the need, dump it, leave it, and go. And then it was just like, kept saying like, I'm trying to be, and I'm like, no. Like, you don't have to keep digging. Like, I'm like, I mean it. Like, we're done. Like, but and the beauty of it is that she's gonna have to review the MRIs too. And so I knew that I was gonna be okay. Like, and it's like, so you kind of go, all right, well, like, you'll see. And, but I mean, it didn't change the fact that every time I went into an appointment, I was always afraid that I would run, cross paths or whatever. But,
I guess though, I know we're all human, and I know that some doctors are just doing their doctoring thing. They're so smart on one end, which you want that.
Right.
They just don't have the capacity. But that is just a lack of humanity.
yes.
I want to punch this person. You might. I'm
Right.
seriously
No,
like I like
trust me,
dark alley type
yeah.
shit.
Yeah. I'll tell you. Let me put a good spin on it now too. So as you can imagine, during the whole thing, she says to me, she's trying to go through all the stuff. And then she goes, well, there's this thing called Optune, which is the device I wear. And she goes, but I wouldn't wear it because you have to shave your head. And I said, why would I care what you're going to do? I'm like, and besides, I'm already bald. So like, step solved, and so finally end up leaving. And then, so I don't sleep, this whole time. And then on top of the fact that like my 2 boys, like one's off to college and one's in the house. So I can't tell them separate from each other. And the younger of the 2 of them, he and I are close. So it's like, where I'm seeing him, and it was like I'm pretty sure growing up depression was normal. Like it was like kind of home base, but I didn't know what anxiety was. Definitely didn't know what panic attacks were. And so every time I'd see him, I'd be like, Becky, we gotta go walk. And we would just walk. I don't know how many miles we probably walked that first week, but the first like 4 days I didn't sleep. And then the radiation oncologist I told you about that was awesome. By Thursday, I hadn't slept still, and I just called and talked to his fellow and explained that I wanted a second opinion. And he called me back and explained to me all the reasons why that was stupid, and I agreed. And I said, that's not really why I was calling. I felt like I need to tell you a little bit about what was said after our meeting. And he was like, you got to be kidding me. And I was like, no. And so we're doing what I think most people do, is try to escape. So that weekend we went to all these different friends' houses. And on Sunday, we were at my friend's house, he and his wife and Becky and I, and trying to escape the whole thing. And my phone's ringing. I look down, it's Ohio State Medical Center. And I was like, oh, damn, they're not calling with good news on Sunday, you know? And I answer it, and it was my radiation oncologist. And he said, do you have a minute? And I was like, sure. And he said, first thing I need to do is I need you to breathe, because I don't believe it. And this amazing human spent an hour and a half on the phone with me, explaining to me why he became a doctor, why he felt my case was different, and told me that he thought that I was going to be okay. And here I am on a bike path at Buckeye Lake. I'm sure Becky and my friends are watching, thinking I'm having a breakdown, because I'm literally on my knees sobbing. And I told him, I was like, I don't know why you called me today, but I said, you saved my life. I was like, I will be the best patient you have ever seen. And it was like, that's where all this stuff came from. It was just like, if I can go and be a light for somebody else in this worst shit that I have gone through, then this is going to save me. And I have good people around me now. And I am allowed to be me finally around good people. And that's like, it's like that little moment of humanity and empathy that he showed me, it let go. So in a weird way, the shitty doctor, she did me a huge favor, because that whole week, all of the trauma I had held in my whole life was choking me. I mean, it was literally around my throat. His phone call released it. I felt it leave me. And it was just like, you know, it was like when they talk about when you're going through trauma and it feels like something reaches in you and rips it out. That's what it felt like. It was just this, like, you know, and that's like one of, I can tell you, if you want to go into the weird, unexplainable stories that I've been through that prove to me that I'm going to be okay, I'm happy to go there with you. I'll probably start crying on a couple of them, but like,
Perfect.
they're good.
That's always my goal. That's always my goal. You just gave me a softball. Let's go. Go deep. Go deep. No, seriously, I do want to hear them.
So I have always had an affinity for the Foo Fighters song Walk. And it's always been kind of like my lifeline. Anytime shit's falling apart, if I listen to that song and the line where he talks about, like, I never want to die, like that hook in it, it's really like was always been my lifeline. So the last day of treatment, you know, I've had friends. I mean, that's the part. It's like radiation is 6 weeks every single day. So I had different friends taking me and all this stuff like that. And then the last day, Becky's going to take me. And so we get there, and she's not a huge Foo Fighter fan as I am, but I go get the mail and I get back in the car, and she had put it on like the Apple Foo Fighters radio or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then when we got to the James and we pulled in, she goes to take the ticket, and is literally as soon as she takes the ticket out, it switches to Walk. And I go, holy shit, did you do that? She's like, why would I do that to you? And I'm like, I don't know, like, you know. And I was like, we have to hurry up and get out of the car. And then this was during COVID, was when I was going through all my stuff. And, you know, you would just go in, get a mask, and go get radiation. Like, but for whatever reason, that day, there was like a little mini symphony in the lobby. Well, like, my son plays bassoon at Ohio State. So it's like he's in a symphony. So it was kind of like, at the time, it was like, this is kind of trippy. And then there was a couple nurses that had found me on Instagram that had a couple cards, and they realized it was my last day of treatment, and they gave me like some cards, right? So it was just like these weird little things kind of lined up. And then Becky that next week said, we're going to go on a trip, just pack a bag. And she's not a huge surprise person. So it was kind of weird. And then she so we go, packed bags. She's like, just get in the car. We're going to drive. And we're driving because that's, the unfortunate part about having seizures. You can't drive for 6 months. So I have no choice. I got to get in the car and I got to go wherever people take me, It's like, that's what I'm doing right now. It's like my rides are all asking my 18-year-old now, hey, can you give me a ride to the store? Like,
Right.
And so we're driving and I still don't have a clue where we're going. And then we get off at the exit for Asheville, North Carolina. And I was like, oh, wow, cool. Like, we're going to go to Asheville. And she's like, yeah. And we had talked about going there, driving to Florida and stuff like that over the years with the boys and stuff. And just never had went. And what we did not know about Asheville is that it's like a brewery per person. Like, we didn't know it was just a beer town. And so, like, I'm not drinking. And so Becky, out of, just solidarity, is not drinking either. And so there's nothing to do. And we were sitting there going like, well, we could just go sit in a bar and get some water. He's like, what fun is that? Like, just to sit and watch people have beers. But so we ended up, she's like, there's an Arboretum. I don't know if I'm saying that correct or not, but like, is it Arboretum? I think it is.
Yeah, you're asking the wrong. We know what you mean.
Okay. So the guy that did the Biltmore, all the landscaping, right? And she's like, well, that's open till like 8. Do you want to go to do that? I'm like, sure. So we go do that, pay our toll to get in there and then park. And there's only a handful of cars in a parking lot. And so we go through it, and I think around that time was October, November. Yeah. So it's getting dark earlier. And we're in the mountains, so it gets a little colder, right? So by the time we're walking through there, we both noticed that there's nobody working in this place. And it was just really, really weird. It was like there's nobody working. And by the time we get to the back of it, it's pitch black. Like, I'm talking like you can't even see your hand in front of your face. And when we looked around, there was like one strand of Christmas lights. And I'm like, maybe that's the way out. So we walk over that way, and there's like that classic, 3, column of high trees with the sidewalk down the middle of them. And so we're walking down the far right one, and we get about halfway, and all of a sudden this voice goes, "Isn't it a wonderful night?" And I kind of turn and look at Becky, and she looks at me, and I'm like, what was that? I don't know. So we get to the end, and this little lady comes out of nowhere, and it's moonlight. So she's got this kind of wild hair, it's kind of curly hair all over. And she goes, "Isn't it an awesome night?" And I'm like, yeah, it's a little cold, and she's like, "I'm just out here grounding." And I go, huh. And then she goes into this whole thing about brain radiation. And she's talking to me about brain radiation and all this stuff like that. And she goes, and in mid-story, she goes, "I should probably stop and tell you that I'm going to be okay." And, I'm getting goosebumps now retelling it, but it's, you sit there and go like, holy shit, what is this? And so she keeps talking, and then she gets a little nutty with some of the stuff she says. And I said, "It's really weird that you talked about brain radiation." I said, "I just finished last week." And she just goes, "Oh, then you know what I'm talking about." And she turns and skips off into the woods. And I'm like, so we're walking out, and I said, look at Becky, and I go, "Did that really happen?"
Like, if you were alone, you'd question your sanity.
I would have thought I was nuts. Yeah, it would have definitely been no way. But she was with me, and I just asked her last week. I was like, "That really did happen, right? I don't want to go on a podcast and talk about this stuff." And it was bullshit. She goes, "No, it definitely happened." So you would think that when you would get, because we're way away from people, right? That there'd be at least another car in the parking lot. But when we got to the parking lot, it was just our car. That was it. So this person or thing or whatever just disappeared, right? And so it's one of those things where I've had so many of those unexplainable things happen that not going all in on sharing this story would be wrong on so many levels.
Yeah.
Because it's I feel like in a weird way that there's there's a reason why I'm still here, that I'm uncovering still, like what it is. And, and I think that there's definitely something at play, it feels like it at least. And, but yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't know, it's just, I think people have that happen to them all the time in their life, but we ignore it. I definitely know that was what I ignored all my whole life, is having those moments where I would have that idea, not some person show up, tell me what I was doing, but it would happen in my head of like, just this intuition of like, this is what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But when I was little, it was a bad thing, So now it's just like, well, no, it's not a bad thing. Now this is like confirmation kind of thing.
Well, you're saying cancer is happening through you.
Yeah.
Not to you. And
Yeah.
that, when I read that, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That just, that one little tweak
Yeah.
of one tiny word
Yeah.
means so much. It's happening through you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's revealing stuff to you. It's, it's like if you took out a piece of paper and you wrote down everything that ever happened to you in your life, every flaw, every, bullshit story you've told yourself about yourself, every whatever, you wrote it all down and you really had that full list in front of you, and people could do this, right? And you looked at that and realized that you survived all of that. And you're going to tell me that you can't do hard stuff? Like, it doesn't make sense. So when hard stuff happens, realize it's not happening to you. It's happening through you. It's part of who you are. It's just part of your story. Mm-hmm. And we all have, probably one of the shittiest things about being human is good and bad days are completely normal. We all want good days, but bad days are just as normal as good days. And the more that we can understand that, like, just because you have bad days doesn't make you a bad person or a terrible person, or just because you make mistakes doesn't mean you are a mistake. It just means that you're human and you just need to be graceful for yourself and realize that, like, you're not doing anything wrong. Like, everybody is navigating this thing that we don't know what the hell the end of it is.
So let's talk about like the reality of the situation now. So you were diagnosed in 2021, according to this bee that I'm going, going to take her down. According to her, you're dead in 7 months. It is now how many years? I mean,
I'm over 4 now.
So that is insane.
It's insane. Yeah.
The tumor's completely gone.
Yep. Well, the spot. So I had a small reoccurrence in October. So I had a lip procedure. It just basically the exact same tumor just moved a little bit forward. So I had another procedure, and I've been dealing with like inflammation from that since. And so for people that don't know, like a lip procedure is basically like kind of like a biopsy, but a little different, where they go and actually put a laser in my head and cook it from the inside out, essentially is what they did. And then I had radiation after that. And so from the radiation, you get inflammation. So edema, it's like fluid on the brain, basically. And so you control it through like steroids. So that's what we've been trying to do, is get it down. So that way I can go to UNC for a CAR T therapy trial. So we've been trying to get it down. And every time we get it down, it kind of spikes back up. So it's like, right. Like today I have another MRI at 3:00. So, it's always
it's a full-time job.
It's a full-time job. Yeah. I mean, it is a, survival of this is not something to take light. I mean, it's not, I get a lot of messages from people, as you could probably imagine, of, what do you do? And I'm like, well, like, I don't, and I have things like, do you eat sugar? Do you drink? Do you, and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, can you get rid of all of that? And they're like, probably not. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, because those are all the things that are feeding this thing. So it's, you gotta figure it out. Like, if what's more important, and I think that's unfortunately, like it's one of those things where, with this diagnosis, you see a side of people. Like, I really, why I don't take it for granted is because there are plenty of people that have had this diagnosis that are walking with canes. They're, they are having trouble like functioning. I don't have any of those issues. I mean, I still go to the gym and I still heave heavy weight and I still do all the stuff that I did before. Now I don't know if that was just sheer, like, I'm not letting this thing define me and I'm going to push through it kind of stuff, or if it really was, you know, where I'm at, where, you know, the beauty is where the tumor was, and it's not near like any motor skill stuff. So it's kind of in a safe zone, so to speak. Even the new spot is kind of in a safe zone. The only part that sucks about it is the inflammation is setting on where your emotional center is for your brain and executive function. So like I really like irrational thoughts, like all that crap. So it was the first time where I had like panic attack again, you know, since this, like, it was like, you know, since the first doc, like this was the first time that I had dealt with that. And, you know, when, you know, I was told 7 months, this happened when my youngest kid was in 8th grade. So, you know, graduation was like the goal. I'm going to see him graduate. That was like, you know, and on paper, everywhere you look, there's nobody saying that that's going to happen. And so funny enough was he just graduated in May or whatever. And literally a week before to the day, I was at the gym and I all of a sudden started seeing auras. And that's the sign of a seizure. And like, and I didn't know it because I never had any side effects yet. And so I ended up having a seizure at the gym, not the same, but more, I have focal was what they would call it. Like where it kind of like, if you remember those like little kaleidoscopes you looked through as a kid, it looks like dancing snakes. So like if, you know, it's like everything's sparkly and glittery. That's when I know stuff's about to go sideways. And I had that like a week before. And it was amazing after all of this mental training I've been doing for 4 years, I literally went straight to all I have to do is live till Friday because he graduates Friday. And then I literally thought I was going to die Friday night and ruin everything from him. And it was like, then I had to deal with that shit. And then it was just like, and so it is a constant, like just when you think you own it, it reminds you kind of thing. And I think it's a great analogy for our lives. It's like, we just don't realize it. Like just when you think you own stuff, it'll, you know, I always say that what it feels like is like, if you can imagine like you're sitting and staring forward and you see these creepy hands kind of sneak up behind you and they just kind of come in your peripheral and they cover your eyes and they just kind of whisper, guess who? That's fear. That's all it is. Our lives are made up of love and fear, period, end of story. And that's what fear does to us, is the trauma or whatever it is will sneak up behind us and it'll cover our eyes and just remind us. But if we realize that all of the shit we've been through prepares us for that moment. And it was like, you know, and I had a really good friend of mine. We were walking through the grocery store and he made this comment to me. He's like, dude, get over yourself. And I was kind of like, what? And he goes, Friday's a period for him. It's just a comma for you. You have to keep writing. And it's like, and all of a sudden it just clicked. It was like, oh, okay, I get you.
But you put so much mental, that was like your,
it was
you know,
everything.
so I mean, I can only, I have irrational fears all the time. I can't imagine the irrational fears that you have.
Oh yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Let's go back to, so you have people reaching out to you who have been diagnosed with various forms of cancer or whatever. And you say to them, could you give up alcohol or sugar? And they're just still like, I don't know if I can. Like, isn't that insane, the grip?
Oh, I think the thing that is the craziest part to me was going into radiation and I'm walking into the James and the amount of people smoking.
Oh, right.
Just all down through. I mean, everybody's smoking. And I'm like really?
Really?
Like, you're outside the cancer hospital and you're all like, it's been proven cigarettes like cause cancer. Like, you know, like, but just people just puffing away like crazy. And, you know, the vape pens and all that stuff like that. And you're like, it's like this, it's wild. Like,
do they say that cancer and so sugar in general for any kind of cancer?
That's what they say. I don't really know too much about other ones.
Yeah.
Like I just really kind of, there's lots of doctors out there that do research on. The unfortunate part of it is that there's not a lot of research on our diet, how it affects it. But there are some doctors out there for GBMs, which is what I had, that do research on all of those things. In particular, GBMs, they kind of feed off of glucose and glutamine. Those are the two big things. So I can suppress glucose by not eating, like if I were to take some sort of glucose suppressant, it might cause harm to the rest of my body. So like I can't really do that. But I can eliminate sugars, and that's why I don't, I would love to slay some Taco Bell.
My next question was going to be like, do you still, you're like, God damn it, I really would love to have like a...
Like I still will have those moments where I'm like, we'll go out to dinner and I'm like, okay, one bite's not going to kill me. You kind of like, you get to the point where you go like, man, you have to enjoy life. I still have to enjoy life.
Yeah.
I can't just like always, but there's so many good alternatives now, like that I wish were around when I was 400 pounds, like Rebel ice cream. Like, I don't know who invented that stuff, but that stuff is like, that stuff is like glorious. It's because it is ice cream, But I think that, if people would understand that like the stuff we put in your body, it's feeding your body. And if you do have something like cancer in there, you're feeding that too. Like, it's not like all of a sudden, like it just vanishes, it's like, you got to kind of take care of all your stuff. Like, whether it's just like, whether or not you're going to go to the gym or you're going to work on therapy or you're going to do whatever, understand all of it affects the whole. Like, and I think that, something as simple as like just a walk, like it's, writing letters to yourself, like the stuff that you actually get out of that, it's so healing and it'll set you free, like literally set you free. Like, and I think that's the thing that if I were to sum up a lot of what I think a majority of the messages are that I get, it's from people that feel stuck. Like, how did you unstuck yourself? And I'm like, well, like I took everything that I felt and I flipped it on its head.
Yeah. And
it's like, and in a weird way, you do have to thank all of that stuff. Like the thing about this tumor that's took a while to understand was how I can hate this thing so much, but I can be so grateful for it at the exact same time. Because without it, I'm telling you, like, you wouldn't be like, why am I talking to this guy right now? But because of it, I can totally feel the vibe going back and forth between us.
Yep.
That's what I've always felt my whole life, but I thought it was wrong. I don't feel that anymore. And that's what connects people now. Like, that's what brings people into your orbit. And the funniest damn thing is that what I would tell your people listening is that, like, everything that you're judging yourself on is exactly what somebody else that's stuck needs to get through their shit. And instead of you thinking it's a bad thing, be brave enough to share it with your neighbor or tell somebody, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. Like, do you have anything that could help me with it? Have you ever dealt with that? Like, those little things like that, even the person in the grocery line in front of you, like, you could make some little off comment about, like, you like their shoes. Tell them, for Christ's sake, spread joy and let people know that they're like, we were leaving in Kroger last night, and there was a girl in front, and I had never seen somebody do this before. She was like probably like 17. She went out of her way to tell the girl next to her that she was pretty. And that girl got this huge grin on her face. Now, I will say this girl had some funky pants on. So she was owning her quirkiness.
Right. Yeah.
And I looked at her and go like, man, that's inspiring. Like, to be able to do that and not worry about, because think about, most people would be like, God, I don't want her to think I'm thinking weird, like, whatever. She just was like, you're really pretty. And this girl, it just made her day. You could see it and you could feel it. And I think that if people leaned into that stuff, the world would be different right now, so.
I love it. I need one of those hats.
Yeah. Yeah. This is my logo. Yeah.
I love it. It's really good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, this has been really great.
Awesome. Thank you.
You have filled my cup and then some. No, seriously. I mean, it's fascinating.
This is awesome. This has been a blast.
And I really appreciate you.
I could do this stuff all day long.
You can come back.
Yeah.
If you're still out there following your girl, follow me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, go follow Jason, go spread a little joy, and keep moving, baby. And I'm going to kick that one ass.